I don't want to be too close to Good morning, good morning. How's the sound? Anastasia, can you hear me okay? How's the sound? Good, we good? All right.
Turn down. Oh. Good morning, everyone. I think we're going to get ready to start. Everyone can please take their seats. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Manny Romero, Vice President for Communications and External Affairs. Welcome, everyone, to our closing session. I'm here to introduce our president, Mr. Kenneth Adams.
Thank you, Manny. Good morning, everyone. Oh, the big crowd at the door. Let them get to their seats. They paid a lot, Evelyn, for the tickets, okay? Before we start, I want to thank, as always, our American Sign Language interpreters who will interpret for me this morning. Incredible Mary Jo Hennessy on my right. And she'll be joined by Evie Garf, who is I'm saying her name slowly because it's a new name for me. Evie is the newest member of our amazing team of ASL interpreters here at LaGuardia, and so you will see her up here shortly. Again, good morning. Welcome to our closing sessions presentation for the spring semester 2024. I'll give you a little preview of how this is going to work. I'm going to start with kind of an update on our 2029 strategic planning process, where we are with that and how we hope people can still get involved and that you will. And then there are these other 8 topics that are things I cover at this time of year just to give updates about what's going on at the college, things that we've gotten done this year and work that remains on our plates for the summer and fall. Again, starting with the strategic plan, first, let me remind you all that this is our new 5-year plan that takes us into 2029. And we're basically doing the work in 3 phases, sort of spring, summer, fall, as you can see in this slide. And this spring, what we've started is the exploration of what we're calling pillars, or 8 pillars of student success. This is a setup where we have volunteers, chairs, co-chairs leading each of these 8 pillars. I'm going to give you a kind of a view into those in a minute. And that work is well underway. The spring semester work, volunteers in these 8 working groups exploring goals and strategies to advance student success under the structure of these 8 different pillars. Over the summer, we will pull back all that work and review it and distribute it to the divisions where the work has to get done for their input. And then in September, when we're back here in full force for the fall semester, we'll reopen the process and have more participation in the groups as we finish up collecting recommendations, ideas, suggestions for these 8 pillars that will produce a draft of the strategic plan that we're going to try to get to the LaGuardia Senate for its October meeting, for the Senate to break out parts to various committees and explore the plan, review the plan, and make its recommendations before we finalize it. Now, I know some people have been concerned that this felt kind of rushed, that, oh, why is President Adams kind of asking us to do yet more work when we're already so busy in the spring semester? And yes, guilty as charged. Not the rushed part, but asking folks to volunteer and do the work. It's true, but we're not doing this in a vacuum. And the timing in part is because we have had to coordinate our LaGuardia planning process with the Chancellor's new CUNY-wide, CUNY Lifting New York process, the new strategic plan or strategic roadmap that the Chancellor unveiled last year, which created a whole new set of metrics for measuring college performance all across the system. Some of you may remember the old PMP system. Those were over 100 different metrics colleges were measured by. Now it's much more customized, and it's called SAR, S-A-R, Strategic Alignment Review. So again, our planning process is guided by this in the sense that the Chancellor's process is underway. They've identified 27 KPIs, or key performance indicators, specific to LaGuardia, based on information that Nava Lehrer, our incredible director of IR, provided earlier in the spring. The Chancellor's office has taken those 27 key performance indicators and given LaGuardia targets for every year, starting next year, 2025, through 2030. So remember, there's all this work is going on at the central office, and this again is driving our planning process here at LaGuardia. We're not doing the work in a vacuum. In fact, we have to submit our report in 2 weeks on June 15th. This is the SAR report, which measures how we are aligning in our performance with the priorities of the Chancellor's strategic roadmap. We will go back to the CUNY Central Office on September 26th. That's when I am supposed to meet with the Chancellor, with our provost, Dr. Billy Gostick-Rosado, and Shahir, and other leaders of the college. We'll be called in September 26th to explain how we're doing and explain how our college strategic plan aligns with the Chancellor's roadmap, what we're doing differently, what our priorities are. So again, just trying to explain the timing here and the 3 phases of the work. By the fall, we should be wrapped up, again, once we take it to Senate and respond to the input we get from the Senate. So let's take a quick look into what these pillars are that I've referred to a couple of times. They are, and you can see here, teaching and learning, the core of what we do, of course. Student support, career success and social and economic mobility, diversity, equity, inclusion, facilities and resources, student experience, climate and culture, and community engagement. So there is a working group for each one of these 8 pillars. New volunteers, as I say, are always welcome to join. Let's take a look at how they're structured. Each working group, and the first is teaching and learning, as I said, which is led by Associate Dean Eric Hoffman. Each group starts with a series of kind of foundational questions, and then they move on after they've addressed those questions to explore other possibilities under their pillar. In teaching and learning, for example, their starting point for their exploration as a working group are these 5 questions, and of course more emerge from these, but things like, how do we increase completion rates for our part-time students? What must we do to eliminate our racial and ethnic achievement gaps? A problem, by the way, that is much more severe at LaGuardia than at other CUNY schools. We really have to pay more attention to this. How do we encourage more students that are in our ACE programs to transition into degree programs? Questions like that. So those are the sort of, each pillar has a set of questions that they start with, and they're supposed to come up with goals and strategies and tactics to address these questions, and then anything else that they feel like exploring. There's plenty of flexibility there. We can look at the next one, which is student support, chaired by Rhonda Mouton. Dr. Mouton, as you all know, is the leader of LaGuardia Cares, and so it's terrific that she's actually stepped up to help with the theme that is so important to her own work. In that group, they're looking at questions like these. How can we better address students' financial challenges? How can we best address needs for students who are not ready for college-level academic work? And so on. Next one, there are 8 of these, so I'm going to move a little quickly through them. Career success and social and economic mobility. Thankfully, Professor Jason Hendrickson of the English department stepped up to volunteer along with Carolyn Nobles from ACE. She does career services for our ACE programs. They're co-chairs of this, and I say thankfully because Dr. Hendrickson is very busy on some CUNY-wide work. He's a CUNY Career Success Fellow, meaning he is now working university-wide on driving career success all across the system and bringing the knowledge, the experience, what he's getting out of that back to LaGuardia and and working with this pillar group on the same topic. So thank you to both. They're looking at questions like, how do we prepare students for job and career success? How do we improve employment and wage gains for our students? Questions like that. Next is diversity, equity, inclusion. Math professor Milena Cuellar has kindly agreed to chair this group, and this, of course, a very important theme for LaGuardia and a very important pillar. They're looking at questions overall. The sort of fundamental question is, what do we have to do to build and maintain a truly inclusive community here at LaGuardia? And then some more specific things like, what does diversity mean at LaGuardia? How does it impact student success? What do we have to do to support our neurodiverse students, students with learning challenges? Questions like this are driving the agenda of our DEI committee under Dr. Cuellar. Facilities and resources. Again, it's good that volunteers have stepped up who have, let's call it, subject matter expertise. In this case, Laura Bardovics, who leads our grants office, and Anthony Garofolo, our budget director. He's kind of appropriate to have in a committee like this, so volunteers don't start spending money we don't have, right, Anthony? They are looking at issues you can imagine. What changes or improvements do we need to our college facilities to increase student success? All these questions, again, every one of these pillars, the lens is, what do we do to increase student success so that more LaGuardia students have the successful outcomes that they seek? All of these questions work that way. Student experience. Subcommittee chairs Professor Berkeri Chochi and Joshua Goldblatt from the Office of Academic Affairs are running this group. They're looking at questions like how to achieve the highest level of student satisfaction. We've done some survey work. We'll be doing more surveys of students, getting SGA and other student groups involved in this. And importantly, and this is something driven by our VP of Enrollment Management, Ben Roden, is this awareness or this commitment to understanding the student experience through the entire kind of life cycle of a student, if you will. From the moment somebody out there in Queens is thinking about maybe going to LaGuardia for anything, for an ACE program, for a degree, that moment they seek information, maybe they come to campus to meet someone in financial aid, they need more information, they have to register for class, they enroll, they have to figure all the stuff you have to do to navigate CUNY, not always LaGuardia issues, but CUNY issues, all the way through to graduation. What is that experience like, and how can we make it as positive as possible every step of the way? Culture and climate is shared by our colleague, Jose Plasencia. Jose, of course, our director of professional development in HR, and his group is looking at these broader issues of the work environment. Again, we have some important surveys on this and questions we want to ask the community. How do we achieve the highest levels of student, faculty, and staff satisfaction? How do we create a campus climate that supports student success? So thank you, Jose, and volunteers for that important work. The last one, number 8, is community engagement, and this is led by Gina Taraskevich. Amazingly, Gina, who is the person who prepares me and all of this to stand before you, is a very, very busy person, like all of our volunteers, and I wasn't sure she would have time to run this group. So Gina, thank you for doing double duty and chairing one of these strategic planning pillars, the one around community engagement. This one is particular to LaGuardia, sort of very important. What does it mean to be an anchor institution, which we are, here in Western Queens? What obligations do we have as a publicly funded college? You know, what are special obligations to Queens, to the city and beyond? And what sort of partnerships should we forge to really live up to our mission, our obligations as a public institution and a community college? As I often say, how do we double down on that second word in our name? So those are our 8 pillars. You can get involved right away because the work is going on, and I want to encourage you to participate. For example, Eric's Teaching and Learning Group has a Zoom meeting June 4th, next week. Topics will be ESOL, right? That's English for Speakers of Other Languages, Guided Pathways, Shared Equity Leadership. A few days later, on June 12th, I'm actually skipping down to do these in chronological order, Gina, Career Success. That group will meet on June 12th on Zoom, makes it easy for people to participate, by the way, to discuss strategies to improve career readiness. And on June 14th, 2 days later, a panel discussion with some outside experts coming in to share their experiences, best practices in student orientation and onboarding, again, that with the student experience group or pillar group on June 14th. There's another thing you can do, and this is so easy. For those of you pressed for time and maybe you can't make a Zoom or a meeting, just do the surveys. We've got 6 surveys that are up now. They're live. Anyone can do these, and you can see the topics of them here, or at least the pillars from which they have emerged. You can take out your phone if you're here in the audience and just take a picture of this QR code. This will take you to the special website for the strategic plan, built by Kimberly Wright, who's the facilitator this semester, supporting all of these groups and all of this work in collaboration with Manny Romero and Gina and Caridad Munoz and the team back in communications. You will see a very user-friendly, chock full of information website that includes these online surveys. And you can simply go in and contribute to the planning process by participating, by completing these surveys. So please do that when you have a minute. So thank you very much. I think that's it for the strategic plan, Gina. Let's go ahead. So now to the 8 topics I mentioned where, again, kind of a year-end update for you all. First, enrollment. I always start with enrollment. I think you're getting to know sort of the flow of these presentations. And the news here is very encouraging. Our Spring 24 degree program enrollment is up almost 9%. That's actually the largest increase in college enrollment in the CUNY system of all the medium and large colleges. There are a few small little colleges or graduate schools that have an increase that's larger, but they have a much smaller base of students. So we lead the way, you could say. LaGuardia does lead the way in enrollment recovery and in the CUNY system. Couple interesting facts here, or updates that VP Roden shared with me the other day. We have almost 1,000 students who have come back to LaGuardia through the CUNY Reconnect initiative. You may recall that this is a CUNY-wide initiative funded generously by the New York City Council under the leadership of Speaker Adrian Adams, that's aimed at helping people who left the CUNY system, some of them a number of years ago. You know, they have some college credit, never finished their degree. To encourage them to come back, to pay down outstanding balances, to help them with financially and with other supports, to get them to the finish line, to graduation. So we have 1,000 of those students who have returned to LaGuardia to complete their degrees through that initiative. When you see the advertising for CUNY Reconnect all over the subway system, give it a second look tonight when you see that, because we have 1,000 students who are here because of that initiative. And by the way, it isn't just the support from the City Council, it's here locally. Lots of different offices at LaGuardia have to work together to support these students and bring them back on board. You know, another interesting, feature of our enrollment growth this semester, a dramatic increase in international students. This is interesting. I mean, we had, in the fall of 2021, yes, the dark days of the pandemic, we had 19 F1 students, right? 19 students here who were international students, meaning they are coming from their country of origin on a visa that allows them to study in the US. By the way, they're not allowed to work. They have to have financial sponsorship. They have to pay a higher tuition, cash tuition, and so on. So we had 19 of them in 2021. I mean, no surprise because it was impossible to travel and students couldn't get the visas. This semester, we had 975, almost 1,000 of them. And that is consistent with what happened in the fall. And basically, and we're seeing a trend, that trend continue for fall, this coming fall, fall 24. You may see this in your classrooms. I know I've seen it with clubs and student activities and things that I do with students, just an increasing number of international students. We welcome them. It's great that they're here. I think in many cases, when you speak to international students, they have a family member that's been to LaGuardia, a cousin, a sibling. They may have a relative here in Queens that they're staying with that's encouraged them to come to LaGuardia. It's all word of mouth. And I add to that the idea that we actually don't devote any kind of marketing or promotional resources to attract these students. I will say many colleges do. Queens College has consultants in China recruiting students from China. NYU, other schools do that. We don't do that. So this is just kind of a natural attraction of LaGuardia through social, personal networks, family networks, and we welcome these students as we do all of our students. But I thought that was an interesting enrollment trend to note. Looking at the fall, I think the news is good. Our enrollment is strong. It's not, it's early still. First day of classes, September 5th. Our transfer numbers are good, up 57%. Those are students transferring mostly from other CUNY schools, sometimes from senior colleges where they've decided they'd be better off coming to LaGuardia. And first-time freshmen are up a modest 3%. I think that will increase over the summer. Some of this is a timing issue. We're down 6% with our continuing students. This is of Wednesday. And that is not surprising because continuing students right now are preparing for finals, graduation, or no, they're not the graduates, sorry, but the students preparing for finals and all the other activities at the end of the year, and so they haven't registered yet. Faculty, please encourage your students, those not graduating, to register as soon as possible for the fall semester. And please, 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 faculty and advisors, remind students they must fill out the FAFSA. Yes, there's been news about the FAFSA, nationally, and some of the problems with the deal with the processing of FAFSA forms, but we have that all sorted out, and we are in business to process FAFSA forms for the federal government and get students their awards. So there's no problem here, and we are fully ready to help students process their FAFSA forms. But we are behind in that, and so again, faculty, please ask students or suggested students register for the fall, and all continuing students, obviously new students as well, but continuing students must go to work with our financial aid office, work with their advisors, and complete their FAFSA forms to get their financial aid. And again, that continuing student number, that will rise over in the next few weeks as students register for the fall. After enrollment, it's usually my thing to pivot to our finances, since obviously our enrollment numbers really drive our revenue, and as we are somewhat of a fixed cost institution, when our revenue drops, we fall into the deficit problem I've talked about way too many times. But today, I've got good news. In fact, I don't normally get excited about a bar chart that looks like this, because that looks like a bad thing, right? Those 3 bars, except this is a chart that shows the decline in our operating deficit. And if you look at the numbers, what this basically indicates, and thank you again to Budget Director Anthony Garofolo, Senior Vice President for Administration and Finance Shahir Irfan, and the incredible team we have in the business office. They manage this very, very carefully. But what this means is, at the beginning of the year, plan is basically the financial plan that we negotiate, we're really given by the CUNY Central Office. It was believed we would close the year, and I mentioned this back in the fall, with a budget deficit here at LaGuardia of about $6 million. Again, that's really because of falling revenue from the loss of students during the pandemic, right? And then there are adjustments you make along the way when you look at cash and receipts and how are we really doing, both with our expense management and with revenue. And I'll explain this a bit in a second, but the good news was by the first quarter, again, that deficit was shrinking to a little over $5 million. And by the end of the third quarter, which is March 31st, the deficit was down to about $3 million. So it'll be around a $3 million shortfall in a month at the end of the fiscal year. But that means that during this year, and again, I love this chart, during this year, our deficit dropped by half, from $6 million to $3 million. Totally moving in the right direction, gives us confidence to hope, I'll say, that in the new fiscal year starting July 1, right, through June 30th, 2025, we should be able, again, with prudent expense management and increase in revenues, we should be able to erase our deficit. I will note there are 9 CUNY colleges, I've mentioned this before, that are on kind of a financial watch list because they have not had this experience. They have had deficits that are problematic. Of those 9 colleges, 4 or 5 are going to close out the fiscal year in a bad situation where they don't have a way to close their gaps, and they'll get assistance from the central office, but that's a position you don't want to be in because then the scrutiny and the control of your finances is very, very strict. I will remind everybody here that the reason I'm not breaking a sweat over a $3 million deficit on June 30th in a month is because Shahir and team have very carefully saved some of our stimulus funds for a rainy day. And it may be beautiful outside today, but financially at LaGuardia, it's still kind of cloudy and drizzly. So we do have stimulus funds to close that gap. Other CUNY campuses were not as prudent with their stimulus funds, and they don't have anything left. And so they must turn to the central office for support. We are in a much better position, so that's good news. One thing I will point out, I should acknowledge, I know people feel the crunch of this because I hear often from people who feel like they're doing 2 jobs or 3 or 4 instead of their own because their departments or their units are short-staffed, and we haven't been able to replace people who've left through retirements or moved on to other jobs. I know that feeling, and I'm sorry for that, but that is the kind of expense management through our savings plan that is fundamental to the success you're seeing here at reducing our deficit. And again, we have a little more of this to go, but where we still have to be very, very careful with our expenses. But it's that savings that's enabled us to be in this good position. But I do acknowledge that. I apologize for those situations where you really feel like, again, you're short-staffed or don't have the resources you need to do your jobs. That's not a good situation to be in, and I just want to note that I'm fully aware of that and grateful for everybody's forbearance as we work this out. Again, on the positive side, the enrollment growth that I described is fueling our revenue, increasing our revenue recovery, and that is really important. Also notable is an improved collection rate. In tough economic times, community college students, not unique to LaGuardia, can be slow to pay their bills, fall behind, accrue balances of unpaid tuition balances or other bills. And we saw a lot of this, obviously, during the pandemic when many students fell way behind because their families were struggling to pay the rent, quite honestly, right, to just not get evicted because they'd fallen behind in rent payments. Remember, for low-income Queens households who have no cash savings or asset wealth, your landlord is the bank because when you stop paying rent, that frees up cash for food or medicine or your children, but then you fall behind in rent and you always have to pay that back, and you pay that back before you pay CUNY back. So I want to cite this as yet more good news. I take our increased collection rate and the reduction in students with unpaid balances as an indicator of improving economic health for Queens households, for low-income Queens families. Because again, students are paying their bills on time at a higher rate and not falling into debt, if you will, with CUNY. That's good news because it means their families, in many cases, are catching up on back rent, and now they have money for CUNY. Another thing that's interesting to note is the economic effect for LaGuardia of all the good work done by the foundation. Jay Golan is here this morning, executive director of the foundation. And what I mean by this is what I call the win-win of foundation for support for LaGuardia students, and I mentioned it here as part of the budget. If you think about it, foundation provides about $5 to $6 million a year in cash assistance to students. Now, much of that is in the form of tuition aid, last dollar support, scholarships for undocumented students, etc. Well, that money is helping a student come to LaGuardia or stay in LaGuardia, and it's being paid to the bursar. It's coming back as revenue to the college. And on the retention side, since the foundation funds so many stipends for students who are in internships or are working on campus, maybe they're peer mentors, success mentors, that money is helping those students financially, but if it's helping them stay in college, well, then they're paying their tuition again, right? And so that's coming back to us as revenue again, a win-win. And finally, so much of the foundation's support goes to LaGuardia Cares for emergency payments to students. Again, when a student gets an emergency payment to pay rent or healthcare expenses or something else, an electric bill, thanks to the team under Dr. Mouton's leadership, well, that's a student that's retained. It's like a retention strategy. That student is helped, the student stays in class, which is of course what we want, but then for the next semester when that student comes back, again, we're going to get the tuition revenue, and you're going to see the double effect of that foundation aid. So now, there is a note I need to, a little shout out. That is a lot of work. What I just described is a lot of work because that $5 million is distributed in very small amounts to many students. So for example, this year, a fun fact, this year the accounting department processed over 1,500 foundation payment requests for individual students, right? Every one of those, Rhonda has a payment request for $75 for a Con Ed bill, where a student has to pay a medical bill. Every time that happens, the foundation provides the support, but our accounting office has to has to process the payment to get the cash into the students' hands. It's an amazing amount of work, and so just wanted to recognize that, that it takes a team to get all of this done, as you can imagine, including the great folks in our accounting department. Let's go on, Gina, move ahead here to academic affairs. Now, our provost, Billy Gasto-Grosado, gave me about 47 slides here. Not enough time this morning for all of them, so we have some highlights. Billy, I hope it's okay. We pulled out what we thought were really remarkable achievements. For example, we're celebrating this year the 10th anniversary of First Year Seminar. And this is, the milestone is important. This is a really important achievement of LaGuardia. We're sort of a standout college in the effectiveness of our First Year Seminar and its ubiquity. But consider this. There's a 14% difference in first semester and first year retention rates for new students going back. This is the cohort of students who entered in fall 22. So the fall 22 group, if they had if they had First Year Seminar, ideally in the first year, their retention rate's 14% higher than students who don't. When it comes to graduation rates, we can go to 2020. Thank you, Navalera, for this research. And the fall cohort of 2020 would graduate last year, a year ago now, 2023. Well, they did, but there was a 9% increase in graduation rates. That's the delta for the students who had First Year Seminar in their first year, as opposed to students who did not. So the evidence is clear, both in retention and graduation, of the phenomenal impact for our students who have a First Year Seminar in their first year. And we're going to continue to push this through, obviously, Billy and her leadership, and her team will continue to develop these programs with faculty so that, as I say, they really are ubiquitous, and that there are enough options for students. Not all students get to do their FYS in their first year. I keep saying the importance of that. So we need to do more to make sure every student can actually get the sections they need, the experience they need in their first year, because it's so supportive and these outcomes are so clear. CUNY Central Office funded, another highlight here, funded the development of 2 fully online programs at LaGuardia, healthcare management and cybersecurity. This is interesting. These are 2 fully online LaGuardia associate degrees, one again healthcare management, the other cybersecurity. This is new. We appreciate CUNY's support. Of course, we appreciate everybody here. Obviously, Abdel Idrisi Bakaraz, the chair of MEC, where cyber rests, and healthcare management, as Mike Napolitano and his team in business and technology. Let's see how this works. I mean, the idea of a completely online associate degree at a community college is interesting. Students have asked for this, so it'll be very interesting to see how this works and how it's coordinated with the broader CUNY system, especially around transfer. Our physical therapy assistant program, we call it PTA, many years under the leadership of Dr. Clarence Chan, really had something. This is, I think, a week ago we heard this. They achieved a 100% pass rate on the National PTA licensing exam, right? So physical therapy assistant, you have a licensing exam, and we had a 100% pass rate for the second year in a row. And you got to remember, in case you didn't know this, the national average pass rate is 80%. So we're not like a little bit better than the national average. You know, we're at 100%. We can't be any higher. And this means LaGuardia's PTA, Physical Therapy Assistant program, is now the top performing program in all of New York State. Please, my friends, a round of applause for Clarence Chan and the team and all of our PTA students. It's awesome. We have a lot of research and scholarship at LaGuardia that we're all incredibly proud of. But starting with students, we had a fantastic event, I guess it was a week ago Wednesday on the 22nd of May, where it was our undergraduate research day. And I was lucky to be able to make it to this event with Billy and Associate Provost Dion Miller and others, and in particular in the company of the new Vice Chancellor for Research for the whole system, the CUNY system, and that's Vice Chancellor Rosemarie Wesson. And it was my great honor she came for her campus visit, and she didn't realize it was the day that 90 students would have their posters up in the main stage, the lobby of the main stage theater, on display and explaining them. It couldn't have worked out better. She was understandably blown away by the quality, the depth, the sophistication of our students' research, and it was a wonderful afternoon. And thank you to all the faculty who supported those students in those projects and in the celebration of that work 2 Wednesdays ago. Not to be outdone by our students, LaGuardia faculty had a similar event this week, right, Billy? This was this Wednesday, so a week later, same number approximately. About 90 LaGuardia faculty presented their scholarly work, research, various projects in a wonderful event that was here in the E-Building atrium. Congratulations again to all the faculty that participated. And thank you to everybody for both events, for people who show up to really celebrate and honor the incredible research we do at LaGuardia, students' projects, and again, the research and scholarship of our amazing faculty. It's not on the slide, but I do want to once again talk about transfer, because even students come to me and say, and I don't know where they get this idea, why did you close the transfer office? Well, I'll just say it one more time. Here we go. So we closed the transfer office because we thought we had a better way of doing it, and we're convinced we do. There was, for a long time, in student affairs, a transfer office under the leadership of Renee Butler that helped students who were transferring in, prior credit evaluation, transcript evaluations, and helped students transferring to four-year schools. But Dr. Butler, about a year ago, retired, and other people left that office. Some on the transfer inside moved to enrollment management. So there was almost nobody in the old transfer office. And Dr. Gasto-Grisado had the clever idea of saying, you know, maybe we ought to have 37 people be transfer advisors. After all, if you take our ASAP advisors and our student success advisors, there's 37 advisors. They're all professional advisors working with students. Why not have them also serve as transfer advisors, become experts in what it takes to transfer to four-year schools, so that we don't have to send LaGuardia students to an office with the lights out, but we can. They don't have to go anywhere. They just work with their normal, regular advisor who will help them navigate their transfer pathway to a four-year school. So it's true, we closed the transfer office. It had no people. Now we have 37 professional transfer advisors. You can ask me this question again in the fall, and I'll explain it all over again. Let's go on to student affairs. Had many slides here from VP Alexis McLean. We picked out some of the notable ones. You know, this is another May event. We've been busy in May. We hosted, for the first time ever, the CUNY Neurodiversity Conference here at LaGuardia. And we had over 200 people. This was in the Poolside Cafe, packed. It was organized, this event, by VP McLean and Regina Varin-Mignano, who spoke and did a really incredible job bringing everybody together for this. We also had representatives of CUNY Student Affairs as part of this event, and folks from across the CUNY system, colleagues from BMCC, Hostos, LaGuardia, and beyond, all as part of this event, which was really, really fantastic. We are always concerned about food and nutrition for our students, and as part of our efforts to increase access to fresh and nutritious and affordable fruits and vegetables, we set up a partnership with the Fresh Vibes Mobile Market. You can see a picture here. This is an RV that the side of it lifts up, and then it's just stocked with fresh fruit and vegetables, produce, and it's free. This is an amazing partnership. Thank you, Dr. Mouton again and Alexis for pulling this off. It's part of LaGuardia Cares, so the truck, if you will, the RV, is parked in that picture on 29th Street as part of one of our LaGuardia Greenway Days. And in fact, they're coming back every Wednesday when we have a Greenway Day and to distribute free, fresh fruits and produce. And when they're not doing that, whatever we can get from them will just go to the food pantry that LaGuardia Cares has. So this is terrific, and we're very, very pleased to host them and provide that resource to our students. LaGuardia Cares, another important note of what's going on. We've expanded the facility, they got more space, a larger food pantry, and importantly, secured a grant of $235,000 just for LaGuardia Cares from a philanthropic group actually named for the former CEO of IBM, Lou Gerstner. It's his charitable foundation, the Gerstner Philanthropies. They gave us the largest grant in all of CUNY, the $235,000, a couple months ago, for emergency student aid to be distributed by Rhonda and her team at LaGuardia Cares. It's fantastic. We're trying to do better by our veteran students, candidly. And this is an initiative very important to VP McLean. And she's been working closely with Darryl Griffin and Randy Changu. And they've set up a new system of orientations specific to veteran students. And that's enabled them to reach about 70% of our LaGuardia veteran students. And that is only just the beginning, I can assure you, of our plans to really improve the support we provide to veteran students and to make LaGuardia Community College a much more veteran-friendly institution. Thank you, Alexis, for your leadership on that front. And we've increased the number of student clubs to pre-pandemic levels. There are a lot of clubs now. And we've had the largest NSO, new student orientation participation, since the end of the pandemic. We had about 1,500 students in the NSO events at the start of this spring semester. It was fantastic. Big shout out here to Denise Davis-Cooper and Chris Singh for their great work on those events. Many of you, and we just know this statistically, have participated in the mindfulness and meditation sessions, because there have been this has happened in more than 140 classes and reached about 900 members of the LaGuardia community, including students, which is phenomenal. Thank you, friend, former provost, the great Paul Arcario, and also his partner in this, the incredible Dima Bayraktar. Really, really wonderful to have all of that happening. By the way, we also had 8 mental health first aid training events for more than 160 people, right? Equipping colleagues to help students with anxiety and stressful situations. Jennifer Mitchell-Mayer and Desiree Rodriguez, key to this success, running these mental first aid trainings, and I am sure we'll have more for the fall semester. Finish up with athletics. How can I not pause to salute yet one more time the incredible Arthur Dukes? I feel fortunate, I think many of us do, that Arthur came to LaGuardia because he has put basketball at LaGuardia on the map. That is for sure. You know that he's a guard on our men's basketball team, and he had a phenomenal season this year. He led the league that we play in scoring in Division III, which is Division III, NCAA Division III junior college athletics. And he became, this just happened 2 weeks ago, he was elected first team All-American. Now, that's a national recognition to a junior college athlete we have never had at LaGuardia. Arthur is an incredible young man, if you haven't had the pleasure of meeting him. But that is also just an incredible athletic achievement, and we congratulate him from the bottom of our hearts. Yes, he's a business major, and he's doing quite well, I need to remind you. That is a requirement, Alexis and Andy Walker ensure of. The women's basketball team, it should be noted, had a better record than the men's basketball team. And they made it to, let's note that. Yes, thank you. Arthur is amazing, but he couldn't get his team into the playoffs despite Arthur had a 47-point game, I saw him at, and then 250, he's amazing. You've seen the New York Times articles and everything. But he couldn't get his team. On the other hand, Matiatu, or Maddie DeGibring, who is the star of our women's basketball team, did take our women's team into the playoffs, okay? So let's be clear, and a round of applause from our women's team this year. Yeah, under the amazing scoring and playing and playmaking of Maddie DeGibring. And she, by the way, had her own record. Maddie was the leading rebounder in NCAA Division III women's basketball. So she has her own claim to basketball fame. Quite notable, and is a wonderful student, also just a terrific person here at LaGuardia. Big shout out at this point to our Director of Athletics, Andy Walker, men's basketball coach, Jarrett Lockhart, who's incredible, and someone who's just really wonderful with our women's team, and coming back, I know, for the fall, Sharika Parry. So big thank you. How about a round of applause to thank the people who have put LaGuardia back on the CUNY athletic map. Let's go to ACE. What did VP Sunil Gupta send in, Gina? We do a survey to prepare for this by just reaching out to everybody, and we say, give us 3 to 5 highlights of the semester. We had, again, I think it was about 87 from Sunil and his colleagues. There is a lot happening in ACE, so it's understandable. ACE enrollment, let's start with that. 11,538 students. This is unduplicated ACE headcount. Thank you, George Schreiner, who does the unduplicating. Not easy. Big 7% jump from the prior year. This matters on a couple levels. First, there's nothing like it in CUNY, right? No other CUNY school, four-year school, community college, has close to 12,000 students in non-degree programs. So this is really a standout issue for us. But guess what? Last couple semesters, 10% of our degree students have come from ACE. As we increase that percentage, and believe me, that's part of the strategic plan, you saw the bullet, how do we increase the percentage of students from 10 to 12 to 15? We are going to bring more students into degree programs. And as we increase ACE enrollment, which is growing, as you see here, almost 8%, if you even stayed flat at 10% mathematically, you would be bringing more people into degree programs from ACE. That transition is a very important pipeline. Think of ACE as a front door to LaGuardia, to the associate degree part of LaGuardia, that is the biggest front door, the most effective and welcoming on-ramp into a community college anywhere in the CUNY system. So super, super important. By the way, we have new students now in LaGuardia, and they are the asylum seekers. And I mentioned this, that I was hoping we could figure out how to help the asylum seekers. And that hope turned into reality thanks to John Hunt, our dean of pre-college programs, and in particular, the incredible Paula da Silva Michelin, who runs the Center for Immigrant Education and Training, whose graduation is tonight. Stick around later after the show. I'll be done by then, I hope. And she has an amazing ceremony in the C building for the students and their families. Anyway, she developed a program called LaGuardia English Express. More than 600 asylum seekers have taken these free English classes at night. It's very elementary English, just to start to get the basics so that they can take other programs, job training programs, and find work, frankly, and other opportunities here in New York. So we're very proud of that. There was a challenge earlier this year. We had more than 1,000 asylum seekers on a waiting list for English Express, but John and Paula, Liz, and the team have figured out ways to advise students and move them through the system, so it's working more smoothly now. TELC enrollment, speaking of ESOL, which I mentioned earlier, a reminder, we are the largest provider of English as a second language or English for speakers of other languages, as Liz constantly reminds me it is more properly called. We're the largest provider of ESOL in New York City. TELC enrollment, as you can see, up over 10% in the last year. Again, word of mouth. We're not really doing much marketing of that. It's just got such a phenomenal reputation because of the quality of the instructors and the great administration and management. Heather Barigmo, Liz Ayanati, and their friends. TELC World Cup is next week in McCarran Park. That's a big soccer tournament for all of the TELC students. I went last year. It's really fun. If you can break away from your other duties, just check out the flyer for the TELC World Cup or come and cheer on your favorite nation. As a school with people from 130 countries, our World Cup is just as big as the one that happens globally. I guess it's Olympics this summer in Paris. I was going to make a reference to the Olympics. There is Olympic soccer. Ours is much better. We have had classes happening on our 14th Street campus, as I call it, over by Union Square, next door to NYU, at Civic Hall. And ACE has led the way with computer science programs there. This fall, we hope that degree-seeking students will go to classes there as well. Nice, very important program. We do 2 different programs to help NYCHA residents get training for jobs, kind of green jobs. And this is under the leadership of Hannah Weinstock. We just got a grant from Con Ed of $1 million so that we're funded for the next 3 years to provide workforce training to residents of public housing, of NYCHA houses, to learn how to be solar panel installers and maintainers. Another program helps them work on energy retrofits. All of this because the NYCHA system is undergoing a $500 million energy efficiency program. And we are on the front lines of training the residents of those developments for the jobs to make their own homes more energy efficient. Couldn't be anything that sort of better connects the LaGuardia dots of helping the community, push in green jobs and a lower carbon footprint for New York City, and teaching skills to people that will be lifetime skills that lead to good union jobs. We partner with IBEW Local 3 electrical workers on this initiative. Film production training program up and running with IATSE, Local 52 up in Astoria. That's the International Alliance of Theater and Stage Employees, as you probably know. And this program is terrific in that it takes, it's hands-on training in film production, film and TV production, led by instructors from the union, real veterans of the trade, if you will. And it's open to our students, of course, in our degree program. And our film and television degree program in our humanities department, under the leadership of Vera Albrecht, has doubled its enrollment in the last couple of years. That program is doing really well, and now the students can both get the associate's degree and get hands-on industry training so they can work in the industry while they're studying, and many of them, of course, will transfer to a corresponding program at Brooklyn College. So that's up and running, and we're delighted with that. It's led actually to several other film industry programs. We're working with a casting associate position and film accounting for our business students doing film production accounting as well. The Apex Accelerator, you may not know this. If I had a quiz on all the programs we do for business services under the incredible dean of that work, Asanta Howard, you might not know Apex because it's new and it used to have a different name. It used to be called something else. Yes, it'll come to me. But it's a federally funded program to help small business get access to federal contracts run by a terrific guy named Nelson Ortiz. And Nelson reported in to Sunil, who reported to me, $71 million in contracts from these federal agencies awarded to small and, in most cases, minority-owned businesses in Queens and beyond, which is a phenomenal opportunity of government spending, again, accessed by these firms so that they can grow their businesses and put more people to work. So congratulations to Nelson. This has inspired us, as have several other factors, to propose a new program in ACE in our array of small business services there, which we're calling MBAC, because it sounds like LPAC. Yeah, love acronyms around here. MBAC is the MWBE, or Minority Women Business Enterprise Advancement Center, designed by, again, Asanta Howard, who's an expert in this work. And she has come up with a proposal for this center that is now before the CUNY Board of Trustees. We're hoping for their approval in their late June meeting so that we can open this facility up by the fall. It will be dedicated to helping small businesses that are owned by minority, they're certified as minority or women-owned, or service-disabled veterans as well. Those small businesses get the preparation training that they need to access the amazing amount of, really it's a phenomenal amount of money. Mayor Adams says it's $60 billion. I actually think it's more, of federal funding for infrastructure projects in New York City. Think Kennedy Airport, think different gateway projects, Second Avenue subway. Think of all the infrastructure spending that's happening. A lot of that money is going to very large global construction firms. And a lot of us believe, Asanta first among many, that there has to be much more access and opportunity for small minority businesses with that work. That's the point of our new advancement center. Let's take a look, speaking of how to pay for all this, at some of the fundraising progress we've made this year. Quickly, simple overview here. The news is phenomenal. Not that they had modest aspirations, but the foundation this year raised 68% more than they thought they were going to raise. I mean, how do you do that? Jay, congratulations to you and your team, but they exceeded their goal by 68%. Don't you know that means we set it high again for the new year, which led them to be able to distribute, as I mentioned earlier, over $5 million directly to students, usually in small individual payments. And that's phenomenal. LaGuardia provides a level of support to our students because of the foundation that no other community college in CUNY can provide. They don't come close. And so we're very proud of that because, again, it all comes back to ensuring more success for more LaGuardia students. And Jay has a note here, another $5.2 million. The board will meet next week, and I don't have an asterisk next to this. Technically, Foundation Board has to approve that goal. That's the minimal amount to be distributed. Laura Bardovics and her team at the Grants Office have also had a phenomenal year, raising a record $18.2 million this year. This is a staggering, this is not, I mean, at the beginning of the year, she and I think we're thinking 10, 12 million would be great. And they brought in round of applause here. Hello. $18 million. These are faculty, research, faculty projects, ACE programs, government contracts. All above that bottom line, remember that slide with those red bars? This is all separate from that. And the one way we at the Research Foundation, I'm on the board of the Research Foundation, so I get to look at this from above, if you will. But what we do is we look at every college, and there's a measure every quarter of volume of grant under management. So, how much does BMCZ have under management, or Hunter College? So this, and it's done quarterly, as I say. So March 31st, most recent data, LaGuardia has $17.6 million in grants. These are already the grants that we have, right? That's not the 18 million. This is grants under management. Places us 7th in the CUNY system out of 25 schools. You know where I want us to end up. Thank you, Gina. An important announcement from Human Resources. A week from Monday, June 10th, Mary DeGangi will join LaGuardia as our new Executive Director of Human Resources. We sent an announcement out about this last week with some information about Mary. So that's very, very important. And I do want to recognize the terrific team in HR who's been doing all the work of HR during this transition period. Lots of great folks there who've been, again, working hard because they're understaffed. And we're going to rebuild all of that with Mary at the helm. CDO and Title IX. Important update. You know that at LaGuardia, like at many schools, there's been a habit of combining these two roles into one position, having one person do both jobs. I don't think that works. I think we have an obligation to pursue any allegations of discrimination. That's Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and any allegation, any hint of sexual misconduct, which is usually under Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. In either case, we have to pursue them immediately, thoroughly, respond to students, faculty, and staff who have the slightest concern and file a complaint of any one of these types. And for one person, that is just too much. So we're going to split this into two and hire a CDO, a Chief Diversity Officer, and then hire someone else to be the Title IX coordinator. We actually just started a search for the CDO, so that's underway. I recently charged the committee. Both of these positions report to me. And we'll start a search this summer for the Title IX coordinator. We have a search underway for a Title IX investigator. That person is subordinate to the coordinator, does the investigations. And Judy Anderson, thank you, Judy. She continues to serve as the affirmative action specialist in this office, the Office of Compliance and Diversity. And that office recently welcomed Anna Rafalovich, who replaced Judy as the administrative coordinator. So if you go up to the 5th floor today, Anna and Judy are there, and they're working under the interim CDO's leadership, and that's Sabine Rose-Pete, who's doing a fantastic job. She's our kind of deputy counsel under Maria Cook, and she serves as our interim CDO and Title IX coordinator until we finish this hiring process. We had last month a really good training in my cabinet, in the President's cabinet on a Monday morning when we regularly meet, a training of pronoun and gender inclusivity. This is a really important and very, very well-prepared training. Thank you to Professor Sauda Rausch and Chelsea Del Rio. And Chelsea, in particular, her leadership of Lavender LaGuardia, the training emerged from Lavender LaGuardia. Professor Rausch happens to have real expertise in this, produced a video. You will all be getting this training. And importantly, this training around pronoun and gender inclusivity will be part of the onboarding of all new faculty and staff. We're going to find ways to get it to students through new student orientation and other vehicles. We want this training everywhere. It's super, super important. So thank you for that. Speaking of trainings, we did another training just this Monday in our cabinet meeting. We had a 2-hour training on anti-Semitism. It was presented to us by two terrific people, Zach Schaefer and his associate, from an organization called Project Shema. And this is also a very, very powerful training, really well done on history and definitions. What is anti-Semitism? How does it appear on college campuses? How do we respond to it? How do we make sure that when we think about building an inclusive community, we're sensitive to the problems of anti-Semitism, which unfortunately now especially are rising in too many places. But that training too is going to continue next week. where Project Shema, the team will come back and train a tier of managers across all of our divisions for anti-Semitism training. Yesterday, we had a lot of fun in the main stage theater. 190, I'll say it again, 190 LaGuardia faculty and staff who have served the college for 10 years or more were recognized, honored, saluted in our ceremony. We do it for 10 years, 15, 20, 25, sort of 5-year increments of service, and that's a lot of people, 190 people. 2 stand out. I can't, be here all day if I read you all those names, but 2 stand out because they hit their 50th anniversary at LaGuardia. So think of that for a second. 50 years of working at LaGuardia, of serving this community. Professor Ana Maria Hernandez from ELA, and Jeff Weintraub, who, Jeff, as you all know, works in IR. So please, hello, a round of applause for Ana Maria, Dr. Hernandez, and Dr. Weintraub. 50 years. Incredible. I want to end here, a couple final points, by recognizing some people that don't get enough recognition. Our great IT team. By the way, when I talk about places that are short-staffed, we've been losing IT professionals because, frankly, CUNY doesn't pay them enough, and the private sector pays them much better. In some cases, our IT talent, our talented colleagues go on to the private sector because they have rent to pay as well. And in some cases, they go to CUNY senior colleges. That actually annoys me when pay scales are different. That shouldn't happen, but it does, and we always encourage people to do what's right for them and their families, and we have had a number of colleagues move on because they've been able to get a promotion or make more money. But that leaves the incumbent, right? That leaves the IT team, it's a smaller number of people. The demands, as more and more things, enrollment grows, all these programs get started, more and more work for them for fewer people. And they're heroic. And I think Jason Bryan, I saw him coming in, is here. Jason, to you and your team, just a big, heartfelt thanks. And they've been working hard. Look at this, new student technology. Help Desk was launched this year. They've done a lot to improve our cybersecurity, everything in conjunction with the CUNY central systems and everything else they do here to make sure we are as free as we possibly can be. It's never 100% perfect from the threats of hacks and cybersecurity problems, but they've done a great job there. I think sometimes, I come to work, I turn on the computer, everything works fantastic, and I don't pause to think, wow, it's working because of people behind the scenes making sure everything works. They've also been distributing new desktops and laptops for faculty and staff. This, limited in some ways by our resources, but when we do have the resources, they've been getting those upgrades out, and so we're grateful to them to that. Well, that's the end. That's 8 of the 8 bullets. I just have some announcement to make, and he checked his watch. Time to go. Evelyn Lomark, she's in the room. She wants to make sure everybody completes their 2024 Employee Engagement Survey. Check your spam folders. This sometimes now in our systems, some inter-LaGuardia email may not end up in your inbox. So everyone should have the Employee Engagement Survey, and this is super important to fill out. We did one 2 years ago. This is the second round, because this will drive responses, again, back in the strategic plan in those pillars related to quality of work life, et cetera, here at LaGuardia. So please do your Employment Engagement Survey. Faculty, please again remind students to register for the fall and complete their FASFAs for the fall. For all of you procrastinators in the room and watching online, a reminder that today is actually May 31st, which means, yes, it's the last day to do our state-mandated and our CUNY-mandated trainings. Workplace violence prevention, sexual harassment, you know what they are, and you know if you've done your trainings or not. So please, I urge you to take some time this afternoon, go online and do your trainings, because today's it. This is an interesting calendar note. The Sunday is June 2nd, true. Sunday is Queen's Pride. And it feels like it's coming early this year, and maybe it is, but because June is Pride Month, right? And many of the New York City Pride events, New York City Pride, come later in the month. Queens gets an early start here. So I want to just mention this, because I will be there with our great LaGuardia group. We do this every year, and it's going to be a beautiful day. I can pretty much promise that from the weather forecast. It's a fantastic event. Yes, there are some other CUNY schools, but none quite as fun and boisterous, loud, and merrymaking as we all are. And we march down the 37th Avenue. This is in Jackson Heights, and it's so much fun. So please mark your calendars. Well, you have to mark your calendar. Just take my word for it. Come out Sunday morning. 11 o'clock, we meet at 89th Street and 37th Avenue in Jackson Heights. Do not try to drive. There is no parking anywhere near there. I've tried that. Take the train. Be there at 11 o'clock, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful celebration of Queens Pride. Our own Pride event will happen Wednesday when we do LaGuardia Pride on the Greenway, which we used to call 29th Street, but Nayeli managed to convince the DOT to close permanently. Sorry if you used to park there, because we're turning that into our campus. And we will have our Pride event there with lots of special guests, entertainment, and fun on Wednesday. Nayeli has promised good weather for that event as well. Finally, of course, and I end for real with this. When is he going to end? I end with this. Commencement, Friday, June 21st. What is that? 3 weeks from today. Amazing. 3 weeks from today. The beautiful green, grassy quad of Queens College, which we'll stomp all over. We have 1,930 graduates in the LaGuardia class of 2024. Fantastic. About 1,000 have signed up to come to graduation. And we're making an important change. You know, we had an incident last year which forced us to rethink logistics. And we also had input from students who said, President Adams, why don't you say my name and give me my diploma one student at a time? I said, because there are about 1,000 of you, and that would take a while. And they said, we don't care. So we're going to have the old-time graduation. Billy, of course, is going to help me here. I'm not doing this alone. And we have several department chairs and volunteer faculty readers of the names. So the students are going to, just want to explain this. You got to come and see it. It's going to be great. The students will come up by their field of interest to a low platform in front of the big platform, walk up a ramp. A reader will read their name, like Arthur Lau, for example, is a reader. We have a whole bunch of people volunteered to read. The reader will read the name. The student will walk by. Yes, Billy and I will shake hands and give them diplomas, their degrees, very quickly. I'm trying to say as quickly as possible to get them up. But this is what the students want, and guess what? If the students want it, I want it. I know you want it. So we're going to do that. Bring sunscreen. Bring maybe a fan if it's hot out. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to give the students what they want, and that's our job. Anyway, see you there at graduation. In the meantime, have a great rest of the semester. And that's it. That's all, folks. Thanks very much. Thank you. Good.